good morning, and welcome to Waking Wellness. We got another download and idea, so of course, we had to do it. We had to go ahead and make another episode. So I was sort of having a conversation in my head, honestly, and the way it came about, or where it actually led to, is explaining why I choose some of the topics that I choose and how do I come up with them, and understanding really. So it came up as a conversation, and because I met someone yesterday who was really awesome. We had a great conversation, Megan, and we talked about, she told me what she was focusing on at the current moment. It started off with Mention crystals, and she brought up to me that she's on the path of devotion to God and trying to find how to merge that with religion while not also pretty much succumbing to the dogma of religion, which I loved how she articulated it. I think there are many of us on this path, and it would be easier for us, or a more comfortable transition, if we had ready and available frameworks to work with. And that's exactly what she said she was looking for. And I gave her my IG, and she followed me and then reached out and said, I never got to hear how you practice your spirituality, and I love that and I appreciated it. The convo in its depth, period. And for two people, actually two souls, to be able to ask the other, how is it that you're expressing pretty much your divinity and our connection to what is. And so I loved it. I was all for it, and we're still in communication. And that's what sparked my mind to go down this path of that conversation, which is playing out naturally. And so answering it, I thought, I get these downloads and I get these thoughts and ideas, and I make sure to not really just write them down. If I do write them down, I know within that 1 to 3 day period, I need to be making that episode, the voice memo, or the actual me sitting down in front of a camera and getting that to you guys. But there are plenty of times where, and I believe this is just true for how things sort of just work, where I may worry almost at first, like, oh my God, I got to do this episode so I don't lose this fire, and I keep all the ideas in this logical flow. But when I really sit into it, and really sort of the divine feminine of the energy, I just talked to someone about that, the creative side of it, it's gonna flow. And when that happens, and you can see the whole episode or the whole dialogue within the mind's eye, then the divine masculine flows in terms of the logic, and it all comes out looking perfect, or sounding perfect, and seeming to the audience as if you've already had all this written down and already planned, when in total honesty, it's been in mind, and it has formed properly by the divine feminine and masculine meeting each other and being I was going to say properly present, but properly present is equally present. And so I say that to say, I realize that even though I do sometimes write them down, I may get that worry now. As I get more confident and I get more in tune with myself, and I am on the more healed side of my journey, especially where I am right now, and understanding, I haven't responded to Megan completely yet, in terms, I told her I was going to give her a lot of recs, book recommendations, documentary recommendations, techniques, and things that you can try or utilize to get in tune with the inner self. And that is what actually Wake and Wellness is all about. So I introduced her to it and let her know that's what I'm doing. But I say that to you guys because that's what I'm going to be focusing on. I'm going to be focusing on creating those intro, those one-on-one levels, then the intermediate levels, and then getting into the I called it extreme. I don't want to call it extreme, but more, let's say, difficult in terms of information to digest. It gets a lot tougher to digest some of the things, like, let's say I'm reading, and I mention a lot, esoteric psychology. I am so grateful for my 12 years of, since 2011, 2012, dive into about 11 to 12 years of my journey of where I remember reading a lot of books and going, what are these terms like? And I could feel inside that I was getting in tune with, or I would see the Sethera, and I would see the tree of wisdom and the Kabbalah, and I would see these things and these symbols and these terms, and it would resonate with me, but I had no idea what the monad was, or what the etheric bodies really were. I could read them and I can look at them, but I was trying to understand them logically, when these are things that have to be accepted creatively and through, again, like that divine feminine, the understanding of understanding, whether or not we understand where we got the understanding from, the download from, but integrating that and letting it be and accepting it as it is. That's so important, because then that logic flows. Now I could sit here and I could talk with you about esoteric psychology, or things that I can tell that are outside, quote unquote, outside of my reach. But just like when we were coming up in school, learning from those, how to identify these things through context clues. Could I do that back then? Yes. But again, I needed to go through certain things. I cannot talk to you about astral projection or near-death experiences and their connection with outer body experiences, or how we do fear death less when we have these experiences, and the connection to death, or death in its true form and its connection to reincarnation and the karmic cycles. I am not able to talk to you about these things in the depth and detail that I can't talk to you about them if I have not been through them properly. You will hear the difference in depth and the difference in us being able to connect and relate versus someone who's just reading these things as topics within a book. Like, it's no way to actually tell you what an outer body experience is like if I'm just reading it from a book. I'm going to be citing exactly what the author said, which is me quoting from an authentic experience. But I haven't authenticated the experience myself. You get me? So, like, again, I'm talking about somebody being drunk or being high, but getting that from somebody else, from somebody telling me how it was when they were at the bar, as opposed to ever having the experience myself. The detail is going to be a lot different. Someone who's had the experience and authenticated that experience themselves, they're going to come with more rich details, even if they are less articulate than the other person, because the other person, again, is just going to be citing, this is where we get, how people love to use the word hotep, or people who are just somewhat faking the experience or the spirituality of the matter and just giving you code words. They're just going to be giving you things like, oh, you may hear chakra, or certain things, that third eye, that are going to make you go, oh, maybe they are spiritual. But again, the difference is in the detail and the refinement of the detail, because again, someone who, again, I told you I've been going through this for 12 years, 10 to 12 years, and not just going through it like, oh, it's just been happening to me and I haven't been doing the work. I've been putting in the work. So now when we talk about certain things, when we talk about rebirth, no matter what you want to talk about, I can sit here and talk to you about it for the next year nonstop, for the next 10 years nonstop, because I've been going through it nonstop for 10 years, for 12 years. I've been doing the yoga for 15. Like, it's certain things that are going to come to you that the unexperienced learner is not going to be able to give you. And so that's so important, again, in what we're talking about, because as I was thinking about how am I going to respond to Megan about and try to keep it concise, and again, that is an indicator of the learned or the experienced of the student master. They are able to show you through their words, which is going to resonate with an imagery, which is going to resonate with a certain energy, how potent of an experience it is to be aware of what is. I felt like I almost digressed a little bit, but no, not at all. I say that because instead of sending her 15 messages about how I am incorporating all the religions and understanding what all of them are saying and incorporating living in the heart and understanding what the Antakarana is and how it connects to the Eightfold Path and how this connects, how all of these deities have different names in different cultures, Athena, Isis. Instead of writing 15 messages, I want to, and my soul knows how to and will express this in one paragraph or maybe two. You understand what I'm saying? By allowing and connecting to her soul in a way that she's going to understand by going, so what I'm doing right now is incorporating the understanding of all religions. A lot like how she let me know, like she was working with this and maybe it didn't work out and maybe she was going through Hinduism, but then she was like, okay, let me try out, Buddhism in this kind of way. And so I could understand that she is looking for that framework. And for me, that's what Waking Wellness is all about. We're here to guide you guys and give you a framework to work with. I'm not telling you to 100% go with what I'm saying and know it as truth. Nope. I'm saying the exact opposite. Take what I'm giving you, come in with the skeptical, open, but skeptical mind and skeptical mindset, so that you're able to discriminate with what I say. You may not agree with what I say, but there are some things that you may be able to incorporate into your practice. And there are some things that you're going to agree with that later you will not, and you will have to learn how to refine. And that's actually the purpose of Waking Wellness. And so I'm so grateful for Source connecting me with Megan and both of us being open enough for her to compliment the crystals and for me to go a little bit further and ask, is she spiritual, so that we could talk about life as we value it. And so to tie this back in a little bit with where I was, that's the whole goal for me, is to provide you guys with the tools that I utilize to get here. So those books, those documentaries, those mentors, those, whatever that framework is, to introduce you to, again, allow you to go through it with the skeptical mind and say, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and go into it with the open mind for you to say, I may not like this, but let me see what value it actually carries in my being. That's very important. I believe it was Aristotle that said, and I'm going to botch it a little bit, that it is a quality of the didn't say superior, but like the superior mind and the elevated mind to entertain an idea without agreeing with it or accepting it. And I love that. So many people are so quick to damn and put down someone's way of thinking and being because it doesn't instantly fall into theirs, and have no ability to assimilate or properly accommodate someone else's way of being. And we miss out on life like that. If we could open up more, then, and I think that's people's issue. They think that being open to something instantly means you embrace it. And no, it means that you're embracing life, because life is coming in all molds and fashions. And so I think it would be way more wise to learn how to incorporate all of these aspects into how you think, and also understand how you think can mold and is actually a part of these things that you think that it is not. We're getting back into the distinguished soul versus the separated soul. The distinguished soul understanding that it is a part of all, and all is a part of it. This takes a different kind of being, my people. Like, this takes a different kind of way of being in the world and being with yourself and being in yourself to do this. It does take the elevated mind, the elevated heart, the elevated being to do this. To understand that all statements are half truths and half lies, other than the truth with the capital T. To understand that, to embrace that, to understand that we will not understand the divine paradox as a whole. This takes a different kind of being, a different kind of life, way of being, way of looking at being. And so that's what that's what we're about here. That's what we love to do. That's the mission. And again, I'm so grateful for Megan. I'm going to tell her to listen to this, because I realized that's what it helped me realize. Like, I am refining what we are here so that we can refine ourselves together. I want to look back in 5 years and be at a retreat like my girl Stacy doing. I love her. I believe she's in Ecuador. She's doing healing. She's doing retreats with her healers, with her divine sisters and healers we're changing the world. They are changing the world one person at a time. They're changing the world one paradigm at a time. And all those one people at a time are they're in one group session. So, oh my gosh, when we do the group work, we are infinite, eternal together. And so that's what I realized I'm doing here. And I needed to put this out there in that way, so that it's understandable, it's visible in the mind's eye what we're here to do together, and how we're excavating the self. And I love when it comes in freeform thought, or as if I'm talking to someone else, because if we all learn how to do that a lot more, we would learn how to talk to the universe, because it's us talking to the universe as the universe talks through us. Again, that's a different kind of way of being. So there's so many recs that I want to get to you guys so that we can really explore more. And there's something that I wanted to go into, a topic that I really wanted to go into, which was connotation and denotation. And that became part of the freeform thought, and why it was so important to bring that up. And that's how I even got on the topic of how are you picking your topics and how are these relevant. And all of these are a step-by-step, like very small things that we're talking about, like integrity. How is that playing into the whole? Because we're talking about purpose. We're talking about authenticity. Okay, how does denotation play into what we're talking about? How does connotation? Because denotation is the definition of something. So let's call that almost the absolute of something. And of course, it may have multiple denotations. Right? But then there's connotation in how we think about the things, and the energy or mood that we put into these, the affect, that is what connotation is. And so the important of that is a lot of us know that connotation exists, but we don't actually perceive and act like it. We let connotation almost stick to it in one kind of way. And so when I talk about something, let's say being distinguished, people may think of it only as a positive thing, but it does have its possibility of negativity, because everything has that positive and negative connotation and possibility. And so the importance of why I even bring that up is because when we start learning how to really shift our mind like really work with the mind and the way that it holds energy and the way that it works with energy, then we will understand how we are actually coloring things with this mindset and with the way that we look at things. Same thing with spirituality. Some people, or religion, somebody who is religious may look at spirituality as a negative thing and understand that it has positive aspects, or just completely disregard its positive aspects and say that, that's blasphemy. And the same for someone who is spiritual to someone who is religious. And so it's so important to realize this, because one thing that really helped me shift and be free in the world was understanding that connotation exists, and that we can, to some degree, free ourselves from the normal everyday connotation. And that's when we start to learn that we are painting these things as we see fit, and we have the power to do so at any moment. And so we must do so. We must learn this is one. Relationship. We must learn how to change the denotation of relationship that we currently have, because typically people think of it like, oh, your boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other. No, relationship is that to the world. All is relationship. And how we see ourselves, how we see the world is relationship, and will dictate how we work within it. And that's then how we get to paradigms. How are we stuck in a paradigm? Stuck has a negative connotation, as if it's his denotation. But that is not. All is, again, half truth and half false. So stuck is not, by definition, negative. It's how you see it. Stuck can be a good thing. Stuck can be the reflection of exactly where you are. You could be stuck in a great position. Stuck is merely a reflection. And so I say that because all is the reflection. And again, we have to learn how we are thinking of these things. What is our perspective? How are we using our perspective? What do we think perspective means? How do we define that? Is your connotation of perspective negative or positive? All of these things are so important, because I want it to be so that when we look at, or we examine, and you go into my YouTube channel and I look back at my YouTube channel, we go, okay, integrity. Okay, connotation, denotation. Okay, we start doing these little steps and we go, oh, that was a little step. So now I understand how to change a paradigm. Now I understand where paradigm fits in the excavation of self. I understand now that that source and God is relationship. We all have our own relationship with God, with life, with love. That's all the same statement. But again, that takes a revolutionary shift in perspective to understand that and get outside of a good and bad connotation and get to the heart of. That's where the real work is, and the real reason why we bring up connotation, denotation, because we're looking for absolute. And we can only feel and understand absolute by heart. And once we're able to do that, then our mind starts to open up differently. And our actions start to look differently. They start to bring fulfillment. The thoughts we have bring fulfillment. The way that we move within life brings us fulfillment. The way we love is and will show us our fulfillment. And so I could keep going on. I really love this episode, and I am very appreciative of the love that it has brought me, that it has showed me, and that God has revealed, that Source has revealed, as whatever name that you know life and love by. I'm grateful for it. Thank you, Megan, because that has helped me go through that conversation in my head so that I can go and bring that here and clarify it for you guys. So you already know what it is. It's Waking Wellness. I love you guys. Health is wealth. Go out into the world and be your best you. I love you. Until next time.